Okay, so we're back with another deep dive, and this one is a real head scratcher. Two disappearances, a burnt out truck. They know the works.
Yeah, the details in this one are really strange. The lack of answers is just intriguing to say the
Let's
least.
just jump right into it. We got to start with Marshall Iwasa. It's November 2019, and he's driving from Calgary to see his mother in Lethbridge. Seems pretty normal, right?
Well,
Then things get a little weird.
this is where those seemingly, everyday details, they become super important. These little things that just don't quite add up.
Yeah, like that late night stop he made at a storage unit.
Exactly. It's after 11 p.m. when he gets there, but the place is closed. Security footage shows him trying his access code again and again all throughout the night.
Ugh.
Finally gets in around 6 a.m., spends like 2.5 hours inside, and then leaves.
2.5 hours? That's so long to just grab something. His family said he was just picking up some computer part, but that just seems off.
Yeah, it does. It makes you think maybe he was trying to keep it a secret or he's in a huge rush. Like, what was he really doing in there? And why go to all that trouble in the middle of the night?
And then 6 days later, his truck is found completely destroyed by fire, abandoned on some remote logging road 14 hours away in British Columbia. That's not just someone taking a wrong turn.
And the location is just strange. Why British Columbia? Why a logging road in the middle of nowhere? That's not a detour you just stumble upon, especially not if you know the area.
And the truck itself, it wasn't just burned, it looked like someone tried to make it disappear. The steering column was ripped out, his stuff was everywhere, and get this, they found a smashed laptop, 3 cell phones totally destroyed, even a busted up Xbox and PlayStation, like someone was trying to send a message.
Destroying evidence like that, that's a huge red flag. It really does make you think that someone planned this out, an attempt to cover their tracks.
And to make it even creepier, a bunch of hikers found the truck. They said the whole scene just felt wrong, like something terrible had happened there. They even found burned clothes leading away from the truck toward a creek, like someone was on fire and ran for their life.
That's a chilling detail. It really does sound like something out of a horror movie.
Mm-hmm.
It just makes you think about the panic, the violence. It definitely sounds like something bad happened there.
You would think the police would be all over this, right? But that's where it gets frustrating. The RCMP, they basically just shrugged it off. They said they didn't find anything suspicious and practically closed the case.
That is really hard to believe with all that evidence. You have to wonder, how thoroughly did they really investigate that scene? Was it just incompetence, or was there something more going on? Like maybe they were pressured to drop it, or even worse, maybe there was something they were trying to hide.
It's like they just decided to look the other way. And what makes it even weirder is that just a few days later, another guy disappears. And it's just as strange as Marshall's case. And get this, it happens just an hour from where they found Marshall's truck.
It really makes you wonder, are these disappearances really unrelated, or is there something more here?
Right. So this second missing person is Daniel Rioch. He was 29 years old, lived on the Squamish Indian Reservation. He'd had a tough life, struggled with addiction, but he was trying to get things back on track for his kids. He was a father, had worked as a laborer, seemed like he really wanted to turn things around. But then, just a few days before he vanishes, things get really strange.
Yeah, it sounds like something was really wrong. Like he was grappling with something, maybe paranoia or a break from reality. People said he was acting really erratically, talking about things that didn't make sense.
Like that time a rancher found him just wandering around totally lost and not even dressed for the weather. It was freezing.
Exactly. And then you have his family talking about how paranoid he was, saying people were after him. It's hard to tell what was really going on. Was it drugs? Mental health? Or was he really scared of something?
And then there's that whole thing with his broken hand. Nobody seems to know how it happened. Some say he punched a door. Others say he was attacked with a hammer. It's just a mess.
Yeah, those inconsistencies are definitely strange. Was he a danger to himself? Was someone else involved? Or was he trying to hide something?
And right before he disappears, he gets on a bus, goes all the way to Winnipeg, breaks into a cabin, and then just turns himself into the police. It's like he was totally spiraling.
It does sound like he was desperate to get away from something or someone. But what? And who? That's what gets me.
And then just like that, he's gone. Last anyone saw him was at his family member's house on the reservation, just walked off into the night. They found his car nearby, lights were on, phone was inside, like he just stepped out for a minute and never came back.
Another abandoned vehicle, another disappearance, and so many unanswered questions. It's hard not to see the similarities to Marshall's case.
Yeah, and the worst part is that nobody reported him missing for 6 weeks.
6 weeks. That's a long time. It makes you think about his relationships, Was there a reason nobody seemed too concerned? Did they not want to get the police involved? Or maybe they just figured he was laying low dealing with his own stuff.
It's hard to know for sure. But once they finally did report him missing, the police didn't seem to do much. They put some information out there, did a quick search, but it didn't seem like they were really trying to connect the dots. But then this crazy detail comes out, something that links these two cases, a red cooler that was found by Marshall's burnt truck.
The cooler is really interesting. At first, it was just a rumor, something people were talking about online. But then photos of the scene came out, and there was a red cooler with the name Cody Lewis written right on it in big letters.
It seems pretty random, right? But Lewis is a super common last name on the Squamish Reservation, which is where Daniel was last seen. And get this, one of the people looking for Daniel was related to the Lewis family. And, you're not going to believe this, Daniel actually had a cousin named, wait for it, Cody Lewis.
Wow, that's a lot of coincidences. It really makes that cooler seem like a direct link between the two disappearances.
And remember how the RCMP said they didn't find anything suspicious at the scene? Well, when someone asked them about the cooler, they said they couldn't even figure out who this Cody Lewis guy was.
You're kidding.
Yeah.
Seriously, it doesn't make any sense, especially because the connection to Daniel's family and the reservation is right there. It makes you wonder if they even bothered to look into it, or maybe they were told to ignore it.
It's like they found a giant clue and just threw it in the trash. But the cooler isn't the only thing tying Daniel to Marshall's truck. Remember that relative of Daniel's, the one who was talking about the cooler online? She said she recognized some of the other stuff by the truck, too. Said it belonged to Daniel.
So now you've got multiple people saying they think Daniel was at the scene. That's not a coincidence anymore.
It's like something out of a movie. But wait, it gets even weirder. Someone else comes forward this time. It's a guy who says he saw both Marshall and Daniel at a bar in Squamish just a few days before they disappeared.
Now that is interesting. If this guy is telling the truth, it means they were together right before they vanished. What were they doing together? And who was this third shady guy the witness mentioned?
So this witness, he actually knew Daniel before that night at the bar, which makes his story a little more believable, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And you know what else? He told the police about the cooler, too. He even described seeing it at the scene.
Wow. So the police had all this information from multiple sources, and they still didn't do anything.
It's mind-boggling. They were handed all these clues, these connections, and it's like they just didn't want to see them.
So back to that night at the bar. The witness said Marshall, Daniel, and this other guy, they were all hanging out, having a beer, seemed pretty normal at first. But then it gets kind of strange. Marshall, Daniel, and this third guy end up back in Marshall's truck, just sitting there in the parking lot for hours.
Okay, so they're alone with this guy. And the witness even said he seemed shady. It makes you wonder, was this third guy the key to it all? Did he force Marshall and Daniel into doing something they didn't want to do?
And get this, at one point the witness went outside with Daniel for a cigarette, and Daniel told him, I think that guy is going to kill us.
Oh, wow. Chilling. Of course, Daniel could have been wrong. Maybe he was just paranoid or high or something.
Yeah.
But what if he wasn't? What if he knew they were in real danger?
And then boom, a few days later, both of them are gone. And it gets even weirder. So Daniel left his guitar at the bar that night. A few days later, the witness sees the police at the bar taking the guitar as evidence. So now they have Daniel's car, his phone, and his guitar, but they're still not connecting the dots.
It's just unbelievable. They had so much information about Daniel, and it all pointed towards a much bigger problem, but they just didn't want to see it. Or maybe they weren't allowed to.
It's heartbreaking. These two young men, just gone, and their families are left with nothing but questions. What really happened to Marshall Iwasa and Daniel Rioch? Was it all just a terrible coincidence? Or was there something darker at play? We might never know the full story, but one thing's for sure, this case is a reminder that sometimes the truth is out there, hidden in plain sight, just waiting for someone to connect the dots.